Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. I'd love to welcome here Rodney Miles, who is the book dude. So, we're going to get to know him, have a great conversation. Rodney, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. I guess as far as like a professional resume, when I was 40, I started life over and got into books, which is where I wanted to be all along, but for different reasons didn't go there. So that was kind of a blessing. It was a big blessing. And in the last 15 years, I've helped, it's got to be over 300 books that I've gotten to help with, helping authors get started, mostly first-time authors. In recent years, I've gotten more into helping authors manage their careers, like build their platforms and market and sell books as opposed to just a book of business, which is used to promote your business. And it lights me up. And it's very cool to talk to you. This is like it feels like recess.
So, what were you doing before you got into this?
I was a real estate broker. Before that, I had a construction business. You go back a little further. I always just wanted my own business. My wife and I, when we were young, we used to set up racks and sell rugs on the side of the road on the weekends, which was great, to tell you the truth. We got to travel quite a bit, lived out of our first camper, and drove around in an RV for, this is in our mid 20s,
Right, right.
and we went right back to it when my daughter went off to school. We full-time RV right now, actually. I'm in an RV right now, I'll tell you the truth.
Nice, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a journey. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and it's helping me now as a writer, I guess.
Well, you help people self-publish, and you're a consultant. Do you do ghostwriting as well?
Yeah, on certain occasions. I started off as a pure, what I call pure ghostwriter. In other words, no credits, nothing. But I quickly figured out, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to build a resume. No one's going to know. It's going to be like a secret. Um, Fortunately, that the environment had changed, so people weren't. There's still a few celebrities who don't want to admit their book was ghostwritten. Um, and they say about 70% of the books on the bestseller shelves at your grocery store are ghostwritten,
Really?
believe it or not. Yeah. And I could name a few who are clearly not into crediting their ghostwriter, but there are others who it's become almost a badge of honor. Some writers, they'll use their name as the brand, and then you'll see with or as told to. William Novak, I think, is who cracked that rock years and years ago. He helped write Iacocca, and in terms of ghostwriting, pure what I call pure ghostwriting is you tell me you want a book on the 10 greatest rock stars, and I write it, and then you put your name on it, and you approve it, you edit it, and you put your name on it. Um, what I figured out early on, I don't want to be a ghostwriter anymore. I want to be a collaborator.
Mhm.
So that's where you get a name credit of some kind. Sometimes a cover on the cover. Um, I've even told clients, no, 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 don't put me on the cover for this, or just put me on the copyright page or whatever. Where and then I interview you. It's your voice, it's your words, and it's a little bit different. I am sorry, I'm almost distracted by it, but I love all your Kiss stuff back
Oh,
there.
thanks. Yeah, that's been my thing to collect Kiss stuff, and my love for it was when I was a kid. We used to go to the little store that was behind our house, and they would sell the bubblegum cards. I think it was like
Wow.
25 cents a piece back then, right?
Yep.
And I had a drawer that was full of quarters. I guess somebody had given me a bunch of change and my mom had rolled it up for me. And so I went in there and I broke it open and I would sneak over there and I'd buy them and I would hide them. And mom never cleaned my room, mind you. For some reason, decided one day she was going to go in and she was going to straighten up my bed. And underneath my bed was all the Kiss cards. I'd gotten the whole set and she threw them all away.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a gut punch.
it was
And hey,
very
it could have
much
been,
so.
I hope she understands it could have been a lot worse when you look under a 12-year-old's bed, right?
You know, it could have been, some magazines or something, but no, I didn't.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it brings back when I was a kid, I guess my half step brother, I think I was about 8. He was about 10 or 12. And I grew up, my music history, I had a little Winnie the Pooh record player and I'd play my mom's Elvis records. And as a little kid, then it was about 8 or 10, my stepbrother Kenny he turned me on the stuff that he turned me on the Kiss, the Alive album, Alive 2. He turned me on the Dark Side. He turned me on the Zoso and changed my life. So if you're out there, Kenny, thank you. And I did the same stuff. I take back then it was you change. Go buy a circus magazine with your quarters or whatnot. And then I eventually got, it was my wife who took me my first, not my first Kiss with Makeup concert, because my first Kiss with Makeup concert was Creatures of the Night
Hmm.
in Fort Lauderdale. But she took me to the first reunion concert and one where they actually had Chris and Ace.
It'd have
Both.
been late 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Good memories.
Yeah, my mom would not let me listen to Kiss. She thought they were
Yeah.
the devil, so that's why anything Kiss that I got, she got rid of. And I guess
She's probably right.
that made me love them even more. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That stuff backfires when you're that age. We're geared to reject and look on our own. Uh, but yeah, but very cool. Yeah. I used to have the Gene Simmons doll and I've had them all. It was cool.
got them right over here.
We bring it back to, not that I want to direct this fun conversation we're having, but it reminds me though, at one point, um, I think it's years ago when Gene came out with an autobiography. I think it was called Kiss and Makeup.
I've got that book too.
Great book. I thoroughly enjoy it, especially you grow up and then when they write their and then I realize uh, Paul Stanley came out with one not on the heels of that, it seemed. And then um,
Peter
Chris and
Chris.
Ace came out with their
Yeah.
own, by Peter Chris, yeah, came out with their own autobiographies. So I read all 4 of them.
Hmm.
And what was so cool is it's like hearing the 4 of them tell you their stories from their point of view, and you see how they intersect and how they see things differently. And it was a cool experience to read band bios that way.
Right, right. That was the first book that I had ever gotten of that size and sat and read all in one day.
Is that right? In one
Yes.
day.
In one day, I read the whole thing and loved every minute. I could not put the book down. It was like you were there with Gene Simmons living his life. And do you know, did he actually write that or somebody wrote it for him?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I could probably look at the book and see if there's clues. Sometimes they'll embed, they'll credit their writer or their collaborator in the acknowledgments or on the copyright page or something like that, if it's not on the cover. Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, and it's possible if you're a celebrity that you just write your own book. No reason not. But it's so much easier to do. And that's kind of what I've done as a collaborator. I changed that early on from ghostwriter to collaborator because it's true enough. And, technically, if ghostwriter would be hidden. That's why they're called ghostwriters. Um, yeah, yeah. So I don't know, but he was pretty candid in it. It gave a whole human dimension to the myth, and it was cool. I think I think Peter Chris's book probably, if I had to rank them, what I enjoyed the most, I think I'd say It's probably his because he went through this whole period in life where there's one where he talks about he this kind of local rock band picked him up. And you can imagine being the, 3, 4 dudes in this rock band, like, man, I just met Peter Criss. I think I get him a tour with us. What would that do for the band? And they ended up on like a low budget tour bus, but they were touring, they were full-time band. And he said he was too old for that shit. He was like, they're bringing girls on the bus and they're like, it was their 15 minutes, they got Peter Criss to, no insult to this band or wherever they are, but, uh, and then he kind of got out of it because it wasn't exactly his thing anymore. He wasn't a young dude. The spoils of rock stardom.
And
So,
to think if it weren't for Gene Simmons, there probably wouldn't have been a Van Halen.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I have no other version of that story. They found him. Eddie would hide. He'd turn his back to the audience to not look so flashy.
Well, and he didn't want anybody picking up on his guitar style.
Mm. Yeah, the tapping and yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
Eddie Van Halen's in my top 3, I think. As far as rock guitarists, top 5, David Gilmour, and it comes back to writing books too. I talk about editing in my book on self-publishing. I do have another book on that I call Rockstar Quotes that I did with a partner years ago, and it's a lot of fun. Actually, one of the things that stands out for me in here is we 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 made this like master list. It's not 365 rock stars, it's 365 quotes.
Mhm.
So let's say if we got 3 or 4 from each, that might be 100, rock stars. And my collaborator helped a lot because she's younger than I am, and she, it spread out the period of in which you would refer to rock stars, but it goes back old and new. I haven't talked about this book in a while. It's cool. There's a quote in there though from John Bonham that surprised me, and he was my idol growing up. Really, of course, him and Gene Simmons. But I was a drummer, and John Bonham says he had a little stage fright before every performance. And I thought, what are you kidding me? John Bonham got nervous.
It's hard to believe. I mean, he was the master when it came to drumming.
Yep, yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Really defined it. He did with one foot that. Well, drumming's gone off the charts today. The things they do technically, and it's really, really amazing, actually.
But
So
without John Bonham or Keith Moon, you wouldn't have
Keith
probably
Moon.
all that technical stuff that you have nowadays.
That's right. Since we're going down memory lane, if you don't mind, I think when I was probably 10 years old again, because it was my stepbrother Kenny, who was 12. Our folks, my dad and his mom would go out and leave us and leave Kenny and his older sister in charge of us, which was a little bit of a mistake, but not too big a mistake. But they said one day, now I'm 10 and my little brother's 8, Kenny's 12, and I think his older sister's 14. And they said, well, we really want to see this movie. The kids are all right, about the Who.
Yep.
And they weren't allowed to go. It was rated R, but they knew a theater. This is Staten Island, New York. And now they're saddled with us, me and my little brother. So they bring us out and they knew this theater and we get into an R-rated movie. And that's probably, I guess he turned me on to the Who as well. I still love the Who. And yeah, Keith Moon just, this story when I believe the story goes, the Who, they were Daltrey and they were practicing and they had another drummer. And I think Pete Townsend tells a story. Um, Keith Moon kind of barged in and he was drunk and he said, I can play better than that guy, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, all right, come on, hot shot. And they put him on the kit and he blew the other guy away because he's got a completely, Keith Moon's like a perpetual solo.
No kidding.
And that was history. Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Yeah, man. But I'll tell you, you talk music, I could talk all day. So
Yeah.
we're going to go down that rabbit hole and we'll never get back to what we're supposed to be talking
Oh yeah, no. No,
about.
tell me. We talk about whatever is good for your audience, whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, man, we're talking about you, man. You help people self-publish. What I've heard the pros and cons about that. What would you say would be the biggest pro to doing it yourself?
99.99% of the time, I recommend self-publishing first anyway, uh, with a few exceptions. If you're,
Mhm.
and those exceptions might be if you already have a very large base, if you've got a large following. Traditional publishing still exists, of course. I think it always will. It still exists just as it used to, in fact, but
Right.
it's not real happy about it. Everybody's adjusted over the last. I think it's 20 years since the advent of the ebook, and when Amazon came in and started kicking things around. So, but traditional publishing, I think I've only had one fellow in the last 15 years who I talked to who was just completely adamant he wanted a traditional deal, and I told him what I could, what I knew. It's not really my purview, traditional publishing. Um, and we went our separate ways, and I don't know what came of it, but you, just as in the old days, it's possible you might never get published.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that's changed in 20 years is for a while there, not so much now, it's a little different now, but for a while there's a saying in the industry where the ebook is the new query letter. So this, now that I say that out loud, it's probably back when ebooks were still fairly new, probably around when I got involved 15 years ago, maybe up to 10 years ago. So see, I mean, traditional publishers. So first of all, what's the difference? The difference is, and we'll talk in black and white terms for a second, traditional versus self,
Hmm.
uh, because there's a whole range in between called hybrid or service publishing or but if pure traditional publishing model is what we grew up with, right? So you write a book and a publisher gets wind of it, they like it, they know they can sell it, they offer you an advance, 5, 10, 50 grand or something like that, which is an advance, by the way. It's not just free money. And they work with you, they get involved in your book, they have a staff editor who works on it. They get you geared up. They want you to do a book tour. They put a lot of emphasis on your launch, which is going to be a 1 week, probably a 6 day period. Even today, it's generally Tuesday through Sunday because they're targeting the national lists, and the sales in that period are going to contribute to your bestseller rank. If you achieve that, which you're going to want to hit 3 to 10, it's a big range. I'd say probably 5 to 12,000 sales in that week. So, but that traditional publisher is banking on that. That's their litmus test is the launch. It's very
Hmm.
important for them. So if they've given you 5 grand, they want to see that you're going to make that back, ideally in launch week. And I was in a little partnership with a guy, great guy actually, who had a lot of experience in traditional publishing, and he had all these little axioms. He'd say it. We had a little partnership going for a little while. He'd say it and I'd write it down. Uh, but one of them was the what your book does in launch week. This is within the context of traditional publishing, is probably what it'll do on a monthly basis thereafter.
Hmm.
So now think, you're a traditional publisher. This is a business.
Right.
You want it to pay out. The problem is if it pays out, great. And what I mean by pay out is they see enough response during launch that you either pass or fail this kind of test. And if you pass, they continue an interest in you and they want you to go around and put you to work. And if you don't pass that test, if it doesn't pay out, they kind of drop you. And that's where a lot of problems arise even today. I've
Mhm.
known more publishers who finally actually got a traditional deal and then after their launch tried to work out getting out of that deal, unfortunately. Um, I think traditional publishing has its place. Traditional publisher has And then you got to ask yourself why. Why would you give up royalties and rights, for example? Well, one rationale is because 15% of a million is better than 100% of zero. If they can do that, what a traditional publisher should bring to the table, and this is very important because there are hybrid publishers that'll kind of represent to you, hey, the unethical ones will use this. Come on, they'll say, we'll get you in 39, and note that number, we'll get you in 39,000 retail outlets. And your eyes like, oh, you picture your book in store windows, right? That's not what they're talking about. All it means is they use Ingram as a distribution platform. Ingram does 39,000 in retail outlets online. Not to get your book physically in brick and mortar stores is called full distribution. And that's something that a pure traditional publisher should be doing if they're keeping like 85% of your royalties. The other thing that they should have, there's two main things I think a traditional publisher should have is full service distribution. Now that often means they're investing thousands, tens of thousands into print runs to pre-print your books and get them in bookstores just like the old days. So they're taking a good bit of risk on you.
Right.
The other thing is the media. They should have national media connections and be able to get you on a national sort of tour. So you can imagine if you're if you're a celebrity of some sort, whether that's sports or music or politics, or you generally get a traditional deal because they have those things, and you would kind of want that to protect your brand, I guess, if you are the brand at that point. So for the rest of us pedestrians, for us plebeians, or actually anybody, it's kind of, self-publishing's come such a long way. If you read my book, The Modern Author, I have to read it again, and I'm about to because I'm going to do the audiobook, but I would hope that you could follow. Sometimes you follow the author's arc. And the big blowdown realization I had by the end of writing that book, by the way, because the process of writing a book can be therapeutic and enlightening. The big blowdown realization I had after looking over my career and trying to share, whatever I could that might be helpful to people today, and to set you up, to bring you up to speed so you can call yourself a modern author, which means you understand what's going on today. I realized self-publishing is a profession, a bona fide profession. Now, when I started 15 years ago, it was maligned. I would even be as cynical enough to say I think traditional publishing had it in for self-publishing because it came along and gave them a kick and disrupted their model, took away market share, Amazon in particular, and they hated it. And I thought it was great. Any industry where they enjoy an exclusivity that might not be deserved, I like when that exclusivity is taken away. I watched it happen in real estate and I watched it happen in publishing. Excuse me.
Well, for someone who's green like myself, and you want a collaborator or a ghostwriter, how do you protect yourself? How do you keep your stuff from your ideas from being just taken away?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't think anybody's asked me that because it's interesting. I learned, well, a few thoughts on it, but one of the things that surprised me early on, many years ago, I helped write a book for two partners
Mhm.
and business partners, and the book didn't get published for a while, and then months went by, and they broke up, and I was no longer involved. But I found about 6 months later, one of them published the book. I mean, we had it done. We had the cover with the body, and then a few months after that, the other partner tried to publish it, and Amazon said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we can't do that. You're publishing duplicate material." First of all, if you're there first, you kind of get to claim the copyright. So copyrights are, as I understand, I'm not a lawyer, but copyrights on books, written material is automatic. and free. Um, and I had at least one or two opportunities to prove that to myself, where Amazon challenged my copyright on one of my books, just kind of arbitrarily. It was a surprise. I was trying to make an audiobook for one of my books, and they
Hmm.
said, "Whoa, we don't think you have the rights to it." And I went, "Whoa," because I didn't register the copyright at the time. Because I feel, well, the copyright's free, but, and I was actually able, but immediately I panicked and I registered the copyright. But before I got that back, I was able to convince Kindle that I was the copyright holder. I said, "Look, here's a screenshot of the title of the copyright page back from 2019 or whatever, published on Kindle, where it says copyright Rodney Miles, and the customer support, by the way, if anybody's having an issue with Kindle support, my quick advice is send a query. If they don't give you the response you want, then send three and see if you get the response you want. Very often it's a matter of you get a new guy who really doesn't know what they're doing, and they kind of, well, we're going to take 10 days to investigate, or we're going to kick it up. But if you get somebody who's been around the block and supports and internally, they often just solve it. And I've had that little piece of advice work. But this fellow, he saw that and he said, "Oh, okay, I got it." And he released my audiobook for production. So it's very interesting. Ever since then, I have recommended, as part of the standard production process anyway, to uh, register your copyright with the United States Copyright Office. It's $65 for a literary work, and $65. I mean, it's so well worth it to have that, and you get a certificate. I've got one sitting around here somewhere. Um, I asked the client once, "Did they actually send you the certificate?" He said, "Oh yeah, I brought it to Thanksgiving and showed it. It was all, my book." The other thing, though, if we go a little earlier in the process, one thing I do, and it's a good sign, if you can find great talent on Upwork, on Reedsy, through word of mouth. Um, I like to think of Upwork and Reedsy as, if you don't have unlimited budget and you're just going in and finding. I have When I really started raising my rates, I found there are clients who, that's what they look for. They don't want somebody at $10 an hour. They want somebody at 100 an hour. It just gives them that confidence, and it's generally justified, to tell you the truth. But if that's not within your budget, or if that scares you, consider sites like Upwork and Reedsy the minor leagues in a way. There are major players on there, and there are brand newbies on there, but there's some up and coming talent. I think of myself when I was early in my career. I worked for peanuts, but I was dedicated to it. I loved the idea that I was in some form of the arts and books, and I was not going to screw with this career. So my philosophy early on was, this guy's paying me a penny a word, but I'm going to treat it like, this is my opus. And it paid off because I overworked, overproduced, but right away I had tons of work. And the one problem I've had in all 15 years is too much work.
Mm.
And and I think that's got a lot to do with it. I see a lot of freelancers, and I really do want to help freelancers because I just think it's fabulous. Make the mistake of gauging what they deliver by what they're being paid. It's just like they say, dress for the job you want. Or I had a crappy old Honda once. This guy taught me the lesson, and I was like, why care for it too much? We're gonna get a new car anyway. And I'm assistant to this interesting woman. I think I was 22, 21 at the time. And we're all taking a break, and I'm working for her, and she's got these big shots, and it was a cool little group of people, actually. This guy Dan was a old-time professional copywriter, and there's some other kind of very accomplished people. We all sitting on her porch looking, and there's my car on the road. And he looked at it, and he was an artist and a writer, and I admired him. And he said, "Is that your car?" And I looked at it, and the little rubber strip, it was a Honda Accord. It was my then girlfriend, now wife's car. The what do you call those strips? The bang strip, the
Uh,
bump strip, the side guard.
Right. I can't think of it at the moment.
We'll think of it when we're done, right? I was hanging off. The thing's all dirty. And he goes, and I thought for sure, I was mortified. I thought, oh, I'm here with these big shots. He's gonna like scoff or something because I have an old car, right?
Right.
And that's not what he said. He said, why don't you clean it up? Put the strip on and wash it, blah, blah, blah. And I, it's like, uh, saw the light. I'm like, wow, yeah, I should just take care of it. It was so stupid and simple, but it affected me in lots of positive ways. I mean, how do you move on to something better if you're not taking care of what you have?
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Well, if people want your service or if they just have a question, do you have a website?
Yes, RODNEYMILES.com. It might even refer you to another site or two, but that will always be the place to go. I'm going to be putting, I think all three or four of the major titles that I want to promote as free PDF edition books. You can also, of course, buy ebook print. You can buy a bundle, but I'm going to make them the PDFs free to get them out there more. And if you are interested in being a full-time author, I'm launching a community in the first quarter of the year here for a limited number of people to join a private paid community where we all help each other become not just authors, but full-time authors. So doing signings and selling and setting up your platform. And that's been like a real epiphany for me after years of trying to figure out how do I help more people without killing myself? Because I did some pro bono projects and I'm always be grateful I did. But and they're books that would have gotten made otherwise. But this is my way now to help more and more people. And we're just going to focus on that dream of being full-time author. So RODNEYMILES.com.
Rodney, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man.
Thank you, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Anytime we can go down these other rabbit holes and
Hey,
sometime maybe. So I really appreciate you having me on.
of course, man. And I also like to thank all y'all out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button. From our regulars, you guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network